All right, we are going to walk through that quiz now and see what you did right. So here is our magical quiz going over live text, masking, and effects. I have opened up that big old flapping file right there. Beautiful. And I would like to put some text in there, right? I'm going to hit text tool, T on the keyboard, and choose a big chunky font. Do I have impact? I do. I'm going to choose impact. I'm going to make my text color white or whitish. As you can tell, my font is teeny tiny. It's always hard for me to tell how big a font is actually going to be, right? The size that 12 point or 24 point or 72 point is relative to my document size is going to depend on how big my document is, right? If I have a teeny tiny 400 by 800 pixel file and I drop in something at 72 points, it's going to be big. If I have a 30 by 40, 300 pixels per inch file and I drop in something at 72 points, it's going to be kind of small. It's vector-based, so you can scale it up, scale it down. It doesn't really matter. I often just type something in, select all, and then I'll come up here to my contextual menu, and I could enter a font size in this box, or I can just come over here to this little t, big T, click and drag, and it will embiggen it. And now hidden is not. So now we have that on there. That is awesome. Cool. I'm going to grab the Move tool, V on the keyboard, move it around, right? I have Auto Select Layer active, so when I click on it, it automatically is moving that rather than the background of 6th Avenue. If I didn't have that, I could just click on that layer, achieve the same thing. Now I want it to be, as we saw in the sample file, seem to come out from behind this building here. So to do that, I'm going to have this layer selected. I'm going to hit Command T on the keyboard for free transform. You could also get to that via Edit and Transform and do any of those individual things, or free transform one menu item above it. I just like Command T because I'm just a keyboard kind of guy. So I'll rotate that a little bit so that it seems a bit more dynamic, zipping out. I will move it to about where I think it should be. Hit return to confirm. And this is still live text, right? So if I change it, right, you can do that. It's not that big of a deal. I do not want to change it, so I'm going to hit escape. I want to keep it the way that it is. Now I want to put an effect on it. I want to put a drop shadow. So I do that, make sure that my text layer is selected, come down here to Effects, and choose Drop Shadow. Boom. Drop Shadow has some variables, right? I never totally remember what they're doing, so I tend to just drag them around. If you look at it, this little wheel here is saying sort of where the light is coming from, and so therefore the shadow will be dropping on the opposite side. Multiply, darken, normal, you know, at 35% opacity, it all kind of looks the same right now. You get a little preview over here. I find it totally useless, but there you go. So I've got it over here at something approaching a 50-degree angle. Opacity is 35. Distance, right? You can see distance is sort of how far back from the thing casting the shadow it is. Spread, right, is how sort of fuzzy that edge is coming out from the point that the shadow is cast to. And and then size is how far that spread goes. I think that's right. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Just figure out what you want and go for it. I'm going to go with, make it a little bit tighter, a little bit less spread. Okay, that looks good to me. So now I have that there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. But I still need to mask off this edge. Now, we all know that we can mask a type layer, so I could just grab the marquee tool, right, because this line is basically vertical, hopefully. Zoop. All right, I can take that marquee tool, make that active selection there, come over here, and when I create this mask, it's going to show me only the part that is selected. That's going to be the opposite of what I want. So I could either draw the selection the other way, or I can do this and then invert it. So I will make a layer mask, right? It's showing me just that part. I make sure that I'm here on my layer mask thumbnail, Command I to invert, or I could always go up to image, I don't know where the hell it is. Yeah, there we go, adjustments, invert. Look at that, I am so good. You could also have inverted the selection initially, right, by Command-Shift-I while the selection was active. Doesn't matter. You know how to do it. We get to this point. Okay, so hidden is coming out from behind my building, but if I come down here and turn on and off my effects, you'll see that they're also darkening this area here. So my drop shadow is actually being cast onto this building here by this letter. Now that's a little hard to see in this, right? I mean, if we turn it on and off, we can see that that bit is getting darker. I'm going to just drop in a temporary layer so that you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So there you can see it a lot better, right? So each of these letter forms is casting a shadow, and at this cutoff edge, it is also casting that shadow as if this were the shape floating there. And that's not great, because what we want is for it to be coming out from behind this building. If it's behind the building, it's not dropping a shadow onto the front of the building. Doesn't work. So I want my mask to affect not only the letter forms, but also the effects that are on those letter forms. So the way to do this, went over this in the assignment 9 video. If I take that type layer and I make a group, right? So to do that, I'm over here in the layers menu, or layers palette, come down here to the little folder, click it. It makes a layer group. Layer groups typically we just use for organizing layers, right? So one group is all the layers that are affecting eyebrows. One group is all the background layers. One group is all the typography, like whatever they are. We use them to organize our stuff, our layers and adjustment layers in our Photoshop file. And we can put a mask on them as well. So that's something that becomes really convenient when I have like 5 layers and I want to apply a mask to all 5 of those layers. Sorry, I'm going out of the screen. Instead of doing like duplicating a mask over and over, and then I edit it and I have to go back and duplicate it again, I just put it all in a group, put the mask on the group, and you're golden. So I'm going to take this type layer, stick it inside of that group, right? I did that just by clicking and dragging it. Then I'm going to take that mask, because the mask is fine, right? I don't need to do anything else to the mask. It is selecting the right thing. The problem is that the effect is being applied to the area with the mask. I'm just going to take that mask and I just drug it up. I'll do it again. There's the mask right there. Click and drag up. See that little blue rectangle pop. And now that mask is on the group. So anything I put in that folder is going to be affected by the mask, right? If I came up here and let's hide that for a sec, and I had a new layer that was a big green shape. Ta-da! If I had that big green shape and I put it inside of that group, right, that big green shape is also being affected by that mask. I do not want a big green shape. Let's get rid of it. Yes, it's not even renamed. What kind of barbarian doesn't rename their layers? Okay, so speaking of which, rename my group here. I guess I'll spell it the way Photoshop spells it, FX. Cool. So now if I turn on that white layer, you can see, right, there is the layer with all of the type and excitement on it, and the effects are applied to that, and then the whole thing is masked off. So go ahead and get rid of that. Delete that, yes please. So there you go. There is some type with an effect applied to it, and both the effect and the type are both being hidden by a mask. I think that's all you need to do for the quiz. Let's go back and look at it anyway. Right, hidden, mask off part of it, give it a drop shadow, do it so that the effect and the type are being cut off, leave the color space the way it is. Love that. And then save it, which I'm not going to do because I don't care about passing the class. Cool. So go ahead, do that, drop it in there, which presumably you've already done, and then meet me right back here and we will walk through the extra credit assignment.